Have you ever felt in the trap of performance and perfectionism? Did you ever feel you're forgetting about yourself and just concentrating about the results? The internet nowadays is full of courses on how to perform better, how to do better, how to do more, how to get there on time or before anyone else, how to perfection something, how to improve. There's nothing wrong about improving ourselves, about cultivating ourselves, about growing. This is a fundamental human need, as the psychoanalyst James Hillman wrote and affirmed. We human beings have a natural need for evolution, for growth, for transformation. But the problem occurs when we exchange the mean for the result, the mean for the goal. Then when we concentrate just on the performance, we lose the consciousness of our why we are doing it. What does it mean? That the aim of everything we do is feeling better, feeling realized, expressing our soul, feeling satisfied about the path, about the effort we put in it, about the devotion, about the transformation we went through as we went through all the doors, all the steps to get to the final result. So it's not about the goal, it's about the process. And there are several doors that mark our becoming something else in comparison to what we were before. But due to the daily stress and due to the fast rhythms we have nowadays, we fix ourselves, we crystallize on the means rather than on the process. So we worry more about the little results that need to be faster and faster. And we live in a world of fast food, fast job, fast growth, fast everything. So it's very easy to forget about our why we are doing that, why we are here, and who we are ultimately, why we are here on this earth, what is the purpose of our soul. And so our soul gets poorer and poorer and detaches from the body. And so how can I free myself from perfectionism and feel good about myself?
Hi, I am Maya Vassallo Di Florio. In this space, I answer the most common questions about personal blooming and empowerment. Touching philosophical, spiritual, cultural, and social themes, I support you in making the difference in the world. I'm here to guide you blooming in the marvelous creature you are, one petal at a time.
Welcome to this new Aphrodisia episode. Today a super hot theme, a super hot episode that has been the result of many questions I received from students from all over the world, which is how can I get rid of perfectionism and really start feeling good about myself? So before we start getting into the core of this episode, I usually tell it at the end of the episode, but today I will tell it before. If you want to support Aphrodisia project, you can for sure subscribe to my channel and click on the bell icon in order to receive a notification anytime that a new episode is born. And take a few seconds to leave a feedback. If you're listening to the podcast, you can just click on the stars. It's very quick and leave 5 stars if you're enjoying these episodes and if they're useful for you. Or if you're listening from YouTube, you can just write down your feedback and I will be really happy to read it and respond personally. And for sure, remember to share, especially these episodes, because I'm sure there are lots of people out there. Perfectionism is the illness of nowadays. So there are lots of people out there that are really trapped into the cage of perfectionism and will really need and benefit from this episode. The internet nowadays is full of courses on how to perform better. We human beings have an inner need for evolution. The psychoanalyst James Hillman wrote it very well in his remarkable book Alchemic Psychology, which I quote and repeatedly in my book, my best-selling book Aphrodite Unveiled, which is just in Italian, but if you want you can read it in Italian. There are many people out there in the world that don't speak Italian and are reading it. It's magic, I know, but it's happening. So we'll put the link of the book in the description if you would like to read more about Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality to change your life for the better. So James Hillman talked for metaphors, as we priestesses do, as I do in Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality, because metaphor can be really useful for opening doors into the consciousness, into the imaginative world, and really be precious keys for changing our lives and habits and way of living. So he talked about the Aphroditic characteristic of alchemizing everything. So she, as I write in my book, she is a metallurgy goddess who takes the raw metals and transforms them into jewels, not armies, but jewels. So as human beings, we are inspired by Aphrodite into the evolution of our soul, into getting to be better human beings. It's natural that we want to do so. It's a natural calling of the soul. There's nothing wrong about it, I want to make it clear. So it is a need for the sportsman or sportswoman, for the artist, for the doctor, for the psychologist, for the teacher, for the priestess, for the researcher, for the scientist. Everyone needs to improve, to evolve. And it starts from when we are children. There is a very subtle line that performances trace between well-being and stress and illness and all the diseases that we live daily. And at this point, how can we distinguish? We can distinguish from level and quality of stress. If we are using performance to our well-being, or we are slave of performance and we are missing the point. So stress is a very powerful key. The stress we feel and the emotions we feel in our body is like a bell that tells us how we are, how we feel. So we just have to listen to our body, because there are two kinds of stress. There is the negative stress, which we all know very well, and the positive stress, because stress is also positive, exactly as you have heard, as I said. Stress can be also positive. The positive stress is the one we feel before a powerful speech, before going on scene, if we are actors or actresses, before telling I love you to somebody, before accepting a new job, before changing house, before important things which we know will be positive for our lives. While negative stress occurs when we miss the point, we miss the why, we forget about the why, and we undergo only the performance. So we become slaves of the performance, and therefore performance is not a mean to get well-being and happiness and pleasure, but the opposite. We become slaves, commanded and manipulated by the expectations of high performances and perfectionism. And therefore we understand we slipped into the negative stress when we feel insomnia, when we feel trembling our arms and hands, when we feel heartbeat accelerated, when we feel panic attack even, or paradoxically, when we cannot perform as we would like to, because we are so worried about performance that performance is lowered somehow. And we start having obsessive thoughts. And this is a very necrotic wheel in which we can get trapped. Yes, this is a trap. We hear a lot talking about performance in relationship to the performances into a work environment. But who are we performing for? For the boss or for ourselves? For the work environment or for ourselves? Here, stop a second, because not necessarily the two things need to be in opposition. They can go together. But sometimes the big societies worry about the well-being of the workers just because they want them to perform more in the work environment. But sometimes the things do not match. If you Google about the scientific researches about the connection between personal well-being and performance, you will mainly find the connections between performance and work well-being and society's well-being. Because with the fast rhythms we have, it's very difficult to find the perfect match between the single worker, the single individual, and the needs of the big society. That should happen in order to have a fortunate meeting, a fortunate and happy relationship between the two and between all the human beings that work within a society. In order to get the right job, for example, and the right match and the right relationships in general, you should really make it clear to yourself what is your well-being, what is well-being for you, because for everyone can have a different meaning. And if you work within a context, a big society, you can work well maintaining a well-being for yourself only if your values, if your needs, if your concept of well-being matches the values of the society. It's not about getting it right or wrong and somebody that is right or wrong. It's just matching with the needs, the desires, the objectives, and the values. I really love Japanese society, which I find very similar to Aphrodisiac philosophy and spirituality I teach. In Japanese language, there are two words I love very much and that go together. They are uchi and soto. Uchi means within, soto means outside, without. And they are not in opposition as we would think, as it is not in opposition the word I and the word them, because they are the personal well-being and the collective well-being, the well-being that can be the well-being of a society or everywhere there might be us. They are not in opposition, but in harmony. Wa in Japanese language. Wa is harmony, which is in Aphrodisiac philosophy and spirituality an emanation of Aphrodite. Wa, harmony, doesn't mean to conform, doesn't mean to homologate, not at all. Doesn't mean be all the same and singing all the same, everyone singing all the same note. It's about everyone being themselves, everyone singing a specific note, but worrying about the concert, worrying about harmonizing all the different notes. In the consciousness that there cannot be a real happiness, that no one can be really happy, no I can be really happy if there is not a happy us, a happy we, which is made by I. Every single one and the collective needs to be happy in order to feel happiness. Because otherwise, if I just worry about myself and about my performance and about my only my well-being, for example, not taking into consideration other people's needs, not being empathic, I could have a momentaneous satisfaction, but in the long term, I will be unhappy because somebody else would just take into account his or her own happiness, colliding with mine. And so this is not a meeting, this is a clashing. Why am I telling you so? Because with an excessive attention to performance, it's really easy to slip into perfectionism. And from there, it's really, really easy to fall into perfidy. There are three words which has the same prefix. So this perfidy is applied above all against ourselves. So we really ask ourselves high standards. Then it applies also to other people, because we expect from other people very high standards, not taking into consideration their needs or their problems or their limits. And we lack empathic communication. And sometimes we can become really aggressive, and it starts a very sad wheel of building defenses between people. This falling into perfidy produces what? That pleasure, which is the reason why we do everything in life, and the reason why we commit into something following the Aphrodite principle of pleasure. It dies. Pleasure simply dies, and we don't even notice it because we are so worried about perfectionism that we really forget the why we are doing so. We exchange the care and the devotion for perfectionism. And therefore there is a contraposition then between Uchi and Soto, between within and without, within and outside. There is a contraposition, there is an opposition between what we feel inside and how we are living outside our lives. There is an opposition between how we feel our life mission and the context in which we are immersed. And so we feel like we are not living the life we are meant to live. You probably heard me several times saying that Aphrodite's will helps us performing better, but this is not what is it about. Aphrodite's will is to help you living a juicy life, centering yourself into your life energy, which is sexuality and the Aphrodite principle of pleasure. And from there, radiating your energy into every direction, taking into account everything in your life, every aspect, every area of your life. From these, living a better life, respecting the cycles, respecting the body, and staying in pleasure. Performance is a pleasurable consequence, but this is not the final goal. This is just a mean, the performance, and a positive consequence of following and living according to Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality, following Aphrodite's will and sacred sexuality as I teach it. So the aim is living in harmony, living good within our body, within our emotions, our spirituality, our work, our relationships, our families, following the Aphrodite principle of pleasure in sexuality and in relationship with the body, with nature, Mother Goddess, and with other people. So here I want to open a little parenthesis. Following the Aphrodite principle of pleasure doesn't mean that I just go as a caterpillar towards my pleasure, not taking into account anyone else's pleasure. The real well-being is made of two things. Knowing the why, so why we are doing it, what is our pleasure, our personal pleasure, but putting this why, this personal pleasure in relationship. So the second aspect of well-being is relationship, or better, relationships. So taking into account other people's pleasure, other people's needs, dreams, and respecting the context in which we are, respecting the work, respecting the team in which we are, respecting the ensemble of friends in which we are, respecting the context in which we are immersed, in the awareness that we, yes, want to pursue our happiness, our well-being, our pleasure, but there cannot be a real pleasure if there is even just one person which is unhappy. So we all really want to be happy, but to see other people happy. So we can be happy helping other people and a little bit limiting our boundaries, setting boundaries, because being without limits is a false happiness. There should be harmony between the I and them, and there should be an us made of many I's, me plus me plus me plus me, and so on. And this is very similar to the principle of Hermetism, as above, so below, as within, so without. We will talk profusely about that in the juicy, extraordinary free online workshop I will hold on Tuesday, the 7th of February 2023 at Italian 9 p.m. You can just subscribe by clicking on the link in the description and save the event in the calendar. You will receive a mail when you subscribe, which will help you understanding what time it will be in your country. And so you can save the event in the right time and follow it live. There will be lots of precious exercises to change totally your 2023, which will be the year of rebirth. And it's not just me saying that, but the arts of astrology of many zones of the world, of many traditions, really identify with 2023, a year of rebirth. We went through very difficult years, and this is really the time to change your life and to really blossom into who you really are and get empowered and live your life in harmony with other people around you, especially the people you love. So remember to subscribe. In the meanwhile, you can start asking yourself if you're living the life you want really, or if you're trapped maybe into the performance or into the perfectionism, if you're a little bit too demanding towards yourself or towards other people. And on Tuesday, the 7th of February, we will see how to totally change your life and make your 2023 your year in which you will transform into a jewel. I'm waiting for you on the 7th, and I wish you a wonderful rest of the day. Mwah.